Hello, everybody. This is The Lawyer Show. I am your lawyer, Jeremy Rosenthal. One of the things that we accomplish on The Lawyer Show is we have last-minute surprises. We like to do things differently. We like to just kind of surprise folks, not necessarily do it in a way that's organized, not necessarily do it in a way that's prepared, not necessarily do it in a way that you or even I am expecting. This week, we have three things that happened. We had a few things that happened. Number one of the things is that we had a change in plans for one of our guests earlier this week, and that put us into a bit of a scramble mode, which is how we like it. And not only that, it got me to thinking that we have not, number one, had a repeat guest on. And number two, with that guest, I believe at the very end of it, we talked about having a session where we just talk movies. We talk lawyer movies. We talk about lawyer culture, things that we've seen, things like that. And so really with very little preparation, we're going to bring to you today our lawyer movie extravaganza with my co-counsel, a repeated guest on the Lawyer Show podcast, attorney Bo Kalabus.
Well, Jeremy, thank you so much for having me back. I'm honored to be your third or fourth choice for this, but I'm really honored to be back today and happy to be talking some lawyer movies with you.
You were my first choice for this. I was hoping to have more of a panel discussion on it. So we had other potential panelists that turned ourselves down. We have on a microphone today Heidi Stark, who was the guest last week.
Also, you're a second repeat person.
A second repeat person,
this is a big week, a lot of big repeat.
So we could have gotten prepared for this. We could have planned this 2-3 months in advance. We could have rewatched a lot of these movies, but that would require preparation and that would require planning. I like with the Lawyer Show podcast that we can just kind of pull it out of nowhere and just go.
I think seat of the pants is the way to go on this. And also, too, it may, if we remember things about movies incorrectly, it may generate some buzz. And, buzz is always good.
Yeah, no, we could have like 2 or 3 folks out there who are watching who are like, no, that's not what happened.
No, and, you should kind of get to the point where people could call in because something like that could definitely add to the flavor today.
We are on Facebook Live, so we encourage anybody to write a question, ask a question, send it in. We'll debate it, or ignore it if you want to talk over us and say that we're wrong about something. Well,
come on, comment live. We're not afraid, and we like the challenge of it. And Heidi's sitting over there, and she's going to get drug into this a little more than she thinks today, and I'm excited about it.
I was told before today's podcast, I was told that I talk a little much on these. That I was told that I'm a little verbose and that there's just a lot of narrative from me. And to that criticism, whoever it may be from, because I understand, what people say about me when I'm not around is none of my business. What I say to that vague, faceless criticism is get your own damn podcast.
Exactly. You know who people really talked over back in the day in one of the movies we were talking about early? No one believed Jim Garrison.
Okay, so we're going to dive right in. So Bo is referring obviously to the movie JFK, which we consider a lawyer movie.
We do consider a lawyer movie. We didn't think of it right out of the gate, but it did culminate in the trial. Mm-hmm. Clay Shaw on trial for the murder and conspiracy of JFK.
Right.
First trial ever brought.
Back into the left.
Of JFK.
Back into the left.
Yes. How could we forget that?
Back into the that's good trial advocacy because we remember it.
Yes.
Yep. And what
and
else?
That he had to subpoena time live.
Okay.
To get that movie.
Did a couple things about that. First off, and I wanted to see if we could go this whole hour with avoiding this. But it looks like we're going to hit it right out of the gate. You know where
5 minutes in.
you know where I'm going with it, Bo.
Oh, Willie O'Keefe.
So there's a quote. There's a one. It really. So let's take a 40,000-foot view here. Let's take a step back. Let's look at lawyer movies globally and how we as lawyers look at them. I don't like lawyer TV. I don't really love lawyer movies. I just don't. I'll watch them, and I can be very, very entertained by them.
I don't go out of my way to find them.
I don't. I get enough of it, and I find that it just kind of annoys me because they don't get it right. I remember watching reruns of L.A. Law, and then you have Jimmy Smits or who else was on that show?
Oh,
Corbin Burnson.
Yeah, and the guy with the hair. What was it? The Hamlet.
Harry Hamlin.
Yes.
Yeah, from Clash of the Titans.
Yes.
And this man, I'll tell you what, I feel bad. Nobody really, I don't think we have any.
I think we took Heidi's breath away with that.
I love Harry Hamlin. I also love Clash of the Titans, but that's not what we're talking about.
There's a character named Kalabus
That's
on
true.
Clash of the Titans.
That's true.
So, okay, so when Harry Hamlin stands in front of a jury and starts arguing about, well, studies show that cigarettes have a blah, 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 blah. And in my mind, I'm like, it's a needle off the record moment, because as a lawyer, you're thinking you have to move heaven and earth just to get something like that into evidence.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to take, even if you can manage to get to where you stand in front of a jury and just talk about a study about tobacco,
Mm-hmm.
number one, it's going to take you a year to develop. It's going to take you probably $50,000 in legal fees to get the experts to have the depositions and all that stuff. But the point is that lawyer TV tends to, it doesn't upset me, but
Or just the fact they got the trial setting within a week
oh,
of when
yeah.
they wanted
I've
it.
seen. I think I saw the show. You remember the show Oz?
Yeah.
They had a capital murder, and the guy was executed in the same episode.
Oh yeah, got to fit it into an hour.
Yeah. I mean, that's a 17-year process, really,
Well, yeah.
anywhere else.
It's like, and the writ's done.
Yeah. A lot of money exchanges hand too. So going back, I don't take a whole lot from lawyer movies and incorporate them into my everyday practice. There are a few scenes that stick out to me, and there's a few quotes that stick out to me. One of the most famous, or one of the ones that you and I discuss the most, I'm coming back full circle here to Willie O'Keefe. Jim Garrison, the district attorney of New Orleans, is interviewing Kevin Bacon. So
Yes.
Kevin Costner interviewing Kevin Bacon.
Yep. In an Angola prison.
Angola.
I think so. Yep.
We had Sarah Russell on the podcast.
We did.
She can talk about Angola State Prison in Louisiana. Not a fun place.
Didn't look like it.
Probably not many viewers there today.
No.
No. And Willie O'Keefe, why don't you take us through the scenario?
Oh no,
Bo,
I'm watching you
and-
do this. This is gonna be good.
Okay, so he puts what was Willie O'Keefe's role? He was
He was a male prostitute.
He was a male prostitute that was involved
with Clay Shaw.
with Clay Shaw and David Ferry.
Yeah. How could we forget Joe Pesci in the
Joe Pe-
portrayal of
right.
David Ferry?
So
Who's also a pilot, by the way, too.
in real life, Joe Pesci is.
Yeah. Well, no, David Ferry was.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Did the boys get anything?
Yeah, the boy didn't get anything. Them goose were mighty unapproachable.
See, and another reason why we have Bo here is because we get the voices. I may kind of start chiming in too. If we have any millennials watching, I'm sure we don't. So much of this is just going to go straight over their head.
Yeah, they're already like, they turned this off. This is a dad show.
If they even watched it to begin with. So Willie O'Keefe is in the Angola State Prison, and he is a male prostitute, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Clay Shaw, who was on trial for killing President Kennedy in New Orleans, right?
Mm-hmm.
And David Ferry had already died.
I don't know if he had yet, but he at that point in the movie, it was before the trial. They were going out and talking. They were just trying to
They were
talk
just
to him.
interviewing the witness.
See what he knew.
What did he know?
Yeah,
Because those guys were not fans of President Kennedy.
because
And
fascism was coming back. Remember?
Well, right, and Willie O'Keefe, he's talking to Kevin Costner, and they're in like a field, and there's like cattle.
Yeah, and the guys are cutting the grass with the machetes.
And he says to Jim Garrison, what I'm trying to put it in context. There's a specific quote which is not suitable for JP Cathy and the Crew Network.
True. There was a certain, penetration of a body part
Okay.
that's unnatural, and
I'm not going to take a position on any of that, but what I will say is that he says, Mr. Garrison, you have never, you don't think this way because you have never experienced that particular act.
That was a very appropriate way to put it. I might add.
Powerful, powerful, powerful. Willie O'Keefe had experienced many atrocities in his life. He had experienced many hardships, one of which would be being in the Angola State Prison.
Which apparently didn't rank.
And he made it clear to Jim Garrison that he had such a rosy outlook on life because he had not experienced certain things.
Yes.
And that's a quote that may or may not be dropped around our office. But any other things? So I made a list here. I've got, and it's crazy the amount of movies that we kind of, I mean, there's just a lot.
Yeah. Well, and even that one kind of it was cool how they told the story in the trial, but so unrealistic how, the back and forth between, where they brought in every little piece of the trial in the one closing argument.
And that's just Oliver Stone, too, with that kind of kind of scattershot approach that he did. And it really, I guess it's a lawyer movie in that he's the district attorney of New Orleans and that they had a trial. Not really. I mean, it's a JFK movie. So the one that ranks that there's a few that we have to talk about here today. One, My Cousin Vinny. Yeah,
that's true. And I think really, Heidi's not going to be happy with us unless we get in the Legally Blonde.
I have a 20-year reunion.
Okay.
You've got to mention it. That's all I need.
So I'm going to do more bloviating, which I'm told I like to do on the Lawyer Show podcast. There is a lot of, and I recognize this right up front, there is a lot of built-in misogyny. With all of I can go down the list of all of these movies, and there are very, very few female heroine-type characters in these movies. And here's the ones I'm going to just shoot out at the audience, and we're going to get to as many of these as we can. A Few Good Men.
Okay.
JFK.
You kind of had a female heroine in that one.
Demi Moore, but she wasn't Tom Cruise.
Yeah,
she's a backup. The Verdict.
Well,
right?
Well, and we'll get into it, but she kind of kept it on the rails when no one else believed. So it was kind of, I'd give her a little more backup than that.
Well, didn't she want, and she brought Aunt Jenny or something like that?
Oh, yeah.
I remember that
She pulled out all the stops to stay on that case.
We'll get back to A Few Good Men here, but just kind of running down the list. The Verdict.
Paul Newman.
The Firm. My Cousin Vinny. The Pelican Brief does have a strong female lead. I thought it was Sandra Bullock.
Oh, it's Julia Roberts.
Julia Roberts,
who also did Aaron Brockovich, too, which...
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
Aaron. Okay, good. Aaron Brockovich, female lead in a lawyer movie.
Only if you're Julia Roberts.
Although she's not the lawyer, but she definitely is the lead, right?
Yeah.
I would say so.
She became a lawyer. She eventually went
Did
to
she?
law school.
Did she
yeah.
go to law school? A Civil Action.
John Travolta.
John Travolta. To Kill a Mockingbird. Michael Clayton. All the President's Men. The Lincoln Lawyer. The Insider, which I have as a lawyer movie. Anatomy of a Murder, which is an older movie. I hope we get to that one. That was interesting. You brought up honorable mention Animal House.
Okay, we got Due Process in there. Can't just
I'm
shut
not
a
going to let
fraternity
you
down.
sit here and badmouth the United States of America.
No, sir. He's pre-law.
Gentlemen, he's pre-law. I thought it was pre-med. What's the difference? And there's going to be a lot of that, hopefully, today in this podcast. Caddyshack.
You got to judge.
You got to judge. And 12 Angry Men, I think, too. That one's obvious. And 12 Angry Men, right? So Legally Blonde, I haven't watched it.
It's been about 20 years for me. When did it come out, Heidi?
It's 20 years old.
You're
this year.
the
Yeah.
authority on
This is your lead,
Yeah,
so-
this
I
is
don't
your
know.
turn.
It's been a long time since I've seen it. There is a second movie, possibly a third, but I'm not 100% sure. And Reese Witherspoon is coming back and doing
fan.
this again. I don't know that I'd say a big fan.
So there were
but-
two, right?
What was that?
There were two, right?
I think there were two.
So
And they're making a third.
I don't want to ruin Legally Blonde for anybody out there who hasn't, for anybody who hadn't watched it, but I know the basic premise. Don't spoil the plot, or spoil the plot. I don't care.
Well, I mean, you can read this anywhere. So she was following a guy to law school, right? Was that
Correct.
the deal? And then she gets in, kind of surprises everybody,
Yep.
and they all kind of make fun of her, right, at the start.
Yeah, because she's basically kind of a well-kept girl. She's got a lot of money. She has a dog that she carries around. I can't remember the dog's name, but she carries around the dog all the time. And then she has to goes and gets a job at a beauty salon, I think.
Okay.
It's just really cute. It's just kind of, you can overcome, you can make it, and just because you don't look like something on the outside doesn't mean you can't do something. So.
Well, that's
honorable
what Bo
mention.
and I look. Bo and I, we actually have a lot of overlap in the movies that we like. You're watching JP Kathy and the Crew Network. You can see JP Kathy and the Crew between 7:30 and 9, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. This is the Lawyer Show. We're on between noon and 1 on Facebook Live on Thursdays. What I was getting at was Bo Kalabus and I, we have a lot of overlap on movies. I probably have more overlap with you on movies than I may have, frankly, with anybody else, including my spouse. Now,
Similar interests, but
you
also,
like the Poseidon Adventure.
Oh, yeah. 1972, Irwin Allen, little disaster movie. Very good.
I mean, yeah, and I cut you off. That's what I do. But
Hey.
you were saying?
I think I was done.
You're more into the airport movies
For a
than I
laugh.
am.
I mean, I think we like Airplane, we laugh at that. But if you like any of the Airplane movies, you've got to go watch the Airport series, because that's just where they ripped off all that stuff for the comedic part of it. Which, I mean, the first one was probably their best one. It's still, you go back and look at it now, and it's campy, but it's still it's entertaining. They had big casts in them, you know.
One movie that I cannot. They actually made this movie for you.
Oh, I know where we're going.
And you refuse to. You've never watched it. Is A Clockwork Orange, which I also think is a bit of a lawyer movie. A little bit. It's about criminal justice. You wouldn't know, even
That's
though
true.
they made the thing. I mean, this movie got banned for 10, 15 years in England, and if you ever watch it, you're going to ask yourself why they ever unbanned it.
Well, I'll make you this deal. If one person on Facebook who's not inside this room comments that, Bo, you really need to watch Clockwork Orange, I will come in Monday having seen Clockwork Orange.
But you won't take my word for it.
I bet you're probably right. I mean, you know me on the movies. You know what movies I like.
It's Stanley Kubrick.
That's true. We're big Kubrick fans.
I mean, Stanley Kubrick, big Tarantino fans. We need Tarantino to do a lawyer movie. I don't know how that would look.
Yeah, I would like to see, and we were talking about this yesterday on Once Upon a Time in Hollywood with Cliff, with the spear gun and the wife who fell out. You know, it's kind of, I'd like to know how Cliff got around those charges, because there had to be a lot of questions around that. I think
question.
That could be a movie in and of itself.
So let's set the scene for those who have not seen once. And this is not I don't think this is a plot spoiler, because it's really kind of one of those.
Part of the plot.
It's just one of those little Tarantino offshoot moments. Yeah. So. I guess one of the main characters, who's played by Brad Pitt, he's a professional stuntman. He goes to the word on the street is that he killed his wife.
Right.
In within the Hollywood insider, like somebody didn't want to give him a job one day.
It's Kurt Russell, and it's because Kurt Russell's wife's on the project in the movie, and she doesn't want him because he killed his wife.
Yeah, he killed his wife. And he never got prosecuted for it. And so in classic Tarantino style, they do a cutaway, and there's Brad Pitt. It's a hilarious, I mean, just 8 seconds. Great storytelling, because you know the entire story just by 8 seconds. So they cut away, and there's Brad Pitt on his little fishing boat with a spear gun.
Wearing his diving mask.
Wearing a diving mask. He cracks a beer open, and the beer just spritzes on his face. And his wife is just... He's Brad Pitt looks thoroughly done.
He can't do anything right.
He can't do it
from the sound of it.
And the wife is just in his business, and then that's it. That's all we see. That's all we see. So I think there's two main obstacles to him being prosecuted. Okay, number one is corpus delicti.
Yeah,
they have to have the body of the crime. They have to,
because it's unknown whether they ever found the body, and it's unknown how he beat. Because I think at some point somebody says, "Hey, he killed his wife and he got away with it." So we don't know if the body was found. We don't know if there were charges. We don't know, grand jury or whatnot. So
I would also say that my guess, being in California, is I don't know that they were within the regional jurisdiction of the United States. I don't know how the maritime stuff necessarily works.
Could have been in international waters.
I think that could have been.
Yeah.
But they don't have a body, and
that we know of.
That we know of it, at least in the movie. That's how I would assume that he got away with that in that movie. But it's just a hysterical scene, because he cracks a beer open and goes, psh, and he's just like, and he just that was really funny.
It's Brad Brad Pitt. I mean,
It's Brad. He's
of course.
so underrated too.
He's amazing. Like, he's been in some great movies.
I wouldn't say amazing, Heidi.
Oh yeah, totally amazing.
Well, we don't know of a Brad Pitt lawyer movie, do we?
Does he do? Are there any Brad Pitt? I mean, and some of these actors. That's another thing that I kind of going through this list that I saw. A lot of common denominators. Matthew McConaughey.
He's in a lot.
He's been in a few. A Time to Kill, which is not on the list, but he was in that, and The Lincoln Lawyer.
Yeah.
Richard Gere was in a few that I didn't list one. The one where and I forget the name of it. He was with Ed Norton in one, and he's the lawyer. He's also another good scene, which I'm gonna get a lot of business for this, a lot of flack. One of my favorite quotes for my practice from any movie is from the movie Chicago.
Beyond the Kevin Bacon quote.
Right. Another one is from the movie Chicago, which is just a musical, right? But it's about, I mean, and you've watched it, Bo, right? You know the words to all the songs.
I'm a big show team guy.
Look, I mean, that's another reason why you've made the panel today. Okay.
Hey, things you learn about me, you know.
that and you're willing to be here because you could race back to the office for a 1:30.
2:30 now.
Oh, 2:30. Oh,
yeah.
So we can
drone on.
We got some time. In the movie Chicago, the husband who's God, what's his name? Same Chest Rockwell from Boogie Nights.
Oh.
I see him. I see him in my mind. John C. Reilly.
Yes.
So John C. Reilly is kind of the sad sack husband, and he's going to Richard Gere, who's the high-priced criminal lawyer, and Richard Gere kind of ignores him. The guy's there, literally hat in hand, saying, "Will you defend my wife? She's accused of murder." And Richard Gere's pretending not to listen to him, or not listening to him, and then Richard Gere finally snaps. He says, I didn't, I'm going to get this all wrong, but he says, I didn't ask you if she was an orphan. I didn't ask you if she was innocent. I didn't ask you this. I didn't ask you that. I didn't ask you this. I asked if you had $5,000. And then the guy has...
I don't think Stark approves of that. Heidi.
I've heard that quote in the office.
And then he comes up, and the guy comes up, I think he's got 1,000, and then Richard Gere starts to listen. So, but the point, why I think that's a good quote for the practice of law, particularly in our line of work, is, I mean, really, there's... And I'm going to take a step back, and I'm going to go into Lawyer Show podcast mode where I rant. We'll keep this one to a minute or less. Abraham Lincoln says one of the most important things in an attorney-client relationship, the most important thing, is the legal fee, because it tells the attorney he has a client, and it tells the client that he has an attorney. And so, who am I to fuck with Abraham Lincoln? Okay, but this point from the movie demonstrates it perfectly, right? This is a tragic situation, but the lawyer really should not and does not feel bad about it, and cannot be drawn into that problem for the reason that it's not his problem yet. He is not the lawyer, and the client cannot expect that type of crossover. And not only that, and we talked about this a few episodes ago of the podcast, which is that you can't make the client's problem your problem.
That's true.
And it's the money that sort of cements that sort of solidifies that. Now, the lawyer, Richard Gere, doesn't need to be drawing that much in anyway beyond that. And not only that, but we don't judge, right? We don't judge. People don't, when they go into the ER or they have lung cancer and, well, I'm not going to treat you because you made the choice to smoke, right? The doctor doesn't discriminate there.
Well,
so
and also,
from our point too, hey, the only question is, do you have $5,000?
Well, and there's a method to the madness on that too. And the other part of it is, it's like, look, sure, we get caught up in the emotion of the moment if we're in court, if we're in trial, or emotion or whatnot, but we can't get caught up in the emotion to a point where we're living and dying with every high and low like the client is, because we still have to maintain our wits and plan for, okay, if this doesn't work, what's next? And if you're too emotionally involved or too angry or too wound up, it's really hard to think on your feet to keep moving through it. And that's also another important part to it, where it's like, it may, you know, we've all had the situation where the clients talk to us for 20 minutes and then we respond with a, you know, a 3-second answer, which is, well, you know, sure, all of that is important for you to get off your chest, but it's really going to come down to this because maybe not a lot of that is completely relevant. And that's why you're hiring the lawyer in the first place, is to get in there and speak that language. So,
And it's the money that is the barrier.
it is the barrier.
It's the barrier because a lot of these lines can be blurred.
Right. Well, and a lot of problems are not really problems when you throw money in the equation. It's just like, oh, I just wanted the advice.
Exactly.
You know?
That's exactly right. Because people will sit there and I'm the same way. They will take what's free, and if they have to put a price tag on it, well, I guess it's not that big of a problem.
Right. Exactly. Whereas if your pipes are burst, it's like you're taking time off work to be there when the plumber wants to be there, and you're paying him what he wants. You know, it's the same thing. It's just, you know, because we all get the things where I can't get in during the time of day. Oh, will you meet with me on Sunday or whatnot? And it's like, no, you know, you're not going to meet your plumber on a Sunday. You know, you're.
I don't know.
You know? So
speaking of. Heidi, you've had plumbing
when
emergencies.
you've had 15 days of no water, you'll take whatever you can get. But I understand.
Snowvid.
I mean, I understand that.
That's true.
Actually a really good way to think about it.
Well, are you completely rebuilt after the ice storm and
We're
all
fully
that?
functional again, and we have flooring now as well, so that's great.
While we're with you,
Primal Fear was the other movie you were trying to think of with Richard Gere, Edward Norton.
Oh, yes,
He represents the altar boy. That's a great one.
Yes.
Great one.
Okay.
Oh, the ending is so awesome
it's
on
awesome.
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I haven't seen that all the way through, but I have caught the end.
And there's a good Simpsons takeoff on that with Sideshow Bob, who is trying to kill Bart.
Well, and you had a female judge in that too.
Oh, right.
Yep.
Yeah.
So,
Question, Heidi, how many requests have we gotten for Bo to watch A Clockwork Orange on Facebook?
Well, I was just going to say you probably needed to repeat that because if they missed it in the beginning when our viewers
you know
were
what?
still
It's not
joining
even.
in.
I'm not even. You know what?
Well, I think you should because we
no.
have more viewers
If they were
now.
not, if they weren't watching, then I'm not.
Well,
Okay, Bo Kalabus has not seen A Clockwork Orange.
I know I'm a
He is
Kubrick
going
fan.
on this weird hunger strike where he will not watch it unless somebody not named Jeremy or Heidi are in this room. I think, don't we make our paralegal? Don't we make, like Tiana? Don't we make her watch this?
you really do make people go and watch me because you talk these movie quotes. All of you guys do. You talk these movie quotes all the time, and you don't.
Well, what are we missing?
Well,
What other
no,
ones
what
are
we're
there?
talking
What you're
about.
saying is we're podcasting every time we're at the office, really,
Pretty much.
basically. So this is what it's
Okay.
like to be in our office right now.
Yeah.
A Few Good Men. Let's go to A Few Good Men.
Okay.
Okay.
Tom Cruise.
Airman O'Malley.
Yeah. What's he gonna say? Well, they're gonna come in and say absolutely nothing. You know.
What is the allure? Okay, so I was trying to think about this. I was trying to think about what's the allure of A Few Good Men.
Boy, I'll tell you what. It's got everything in it, though. It does. You've got number one. That cast was outstanding. It really was. I thought everybody did a really good job on it. And you know, you've got the military. You've got veterans. You've got an issue. You've got you got a terrible death that happened. It kind of gives you insight into what could happen in the military. And then at the end of the day, you've got a guy who didn't want the job, a guy who kind of wanted the easy way out, who's got the overhanging ghost of his father in there. You've got the woman that believes in the clients that's pushing, and you got the lawyer that doesn't understand the clients, and then slowly he relates. But at the end of the day, they have the breakthrough in trial. But at the end of the day, it ultimately didn't fix. Everybody didn't walk away whole, which I kind of thought was realistic, because even on a good day in trial, a lot of times, do you get inner peace for a client? No, you don't. A lot of you walk out of there sometimes, and even a good result, it's going to have an emotional overhang to it. And I'm just kind of glancing the surface on it, but I mean, that was kind of off the cuff. I mean, I just think there was a lot in that movie to unpack, which was kind of cool.
I think for me, it's the trial scenes. I think the trial scenes are. I hesitate to call any movie really realistic, but I think that the back and forth, the cross examinations, Kevin Bacon.
Those
again,
were kind of good. Yeah.
Again, maybe we've overlooked Kevin. But Kevin Bacon was not a lawyer. He was Willie O'Kee. He was a witness. But in this, he's a lawyer.
Yeah, he is a lawyer. So it's yeah.
7 Degrees.
Yeah,
So
7 Degrees.
So Tom Cruise, and I mean, you've got the witticisms there with the. You've never been to the mess hall before? You've never had a meal before?
Yeah. thinking on your feet. I mean,
Yeah.
you just see just kind of in the moment cross-exam type stuff. You see mistakes that you can make when you overthink things too. I mean, a lot of that's realistic when you get in the if you're getting in a zone and kind of not looking at the big picture or not being intuitive in trial as well.
Mm-hmm.
And just the prep time too, because
That's a good point.
There's a ton of prep time that
That's a good point. They're
you're
holed
thinking
up
about it
in his
24/7.
apartment.
Yep.
Yeah.
They're practicing cross exams on the experts, and that stuff. And yeah, I mean, I thought that part of it was, and they're wound up. Now, what's unrealistic is that's obviously the only case they're working on. I mean,
I think we could. Okay, so I think we could really. One of the things so nitpicking those kinds of movies. So Tom Cruise, there's a scene in the beginning where he's talking about like he's had 45 guilty pleas in a row or something like that, and then they hand him this.
one more, he gets a free set of steak knives.
That's right. Yeah.
Yep.
See, there you go. We can't.
a great line.
You're right on top of it. So, but if you think about it, that type of lawyer's not getting handed a really complicated murder with co-defendants. I mean, you're not. These are not driving on base drunk. This is not.
They wanted it to go away.
This is not a fist fight. Maybe so. I mean, now, one of the things I think that we get into with A Few Good Men, one of the byproducts, okay, is that I think as lawyers, there are many of us who are stars of our own movie.
Oh yes.
In one thing is this too. Everybody is the good guy in their own case every single time. And it doesn't matter if you're representing an insurance company, even though we all know that they're the spawn of the devil. It doesn't, I mean, that the insurance lawyer believes that they're cutting down on insurance fraud. It doesn't matter who you are. I think there's a lot of lawyers who look and they think, I'm Tom Cruise.
Oh yeah.
Taking the manual away from Kevin Bacon and flipping the script, getting the code read.
Yep. Getting the most important witness in the case to flip, and not realize you set a trap for him and you got him into it over, you knew the emotion, you read him when you first met him, and the emotion worked to your advantage in the courtroom, and it went exactly the way you thought it was going to go.
Right. One thing I think everybody needs to understand too, for those folks who are watching who are not lawyers, getting witnesses to say things against their interests is extraordinarily hard, really in any circumstance, in any setting. It just doesn't happen. And I have probably had...
Especially when the judge is screaming at you to shut it down at the same time,
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, you're fighting multiple things, but witnesses can be difficult for a number of reasons, but they also are not, unless you have to completely lock them in order to get them, and many times not to admit to something dishonest or illegal, just to get them to admit a mistake. It's very, very hard. I think one time I've been able to get a police officer to admit that they lied, They just don't do it. I mean, and not that they lie a lot. I mean, sometimes there's exaggerations, and witnesses are going to see it the way that they want to see
Sure.
it. The word lie is a very powerful word in a courtroom. I do my best really to try not to get there, but what we have to settle for a lot of times in a trial is, okay, witness, you said the sky was blue to the police. And then now today, the truth is the sky was cloudy.
Yeah.
Why are you... Well, I'm not lying. I'm not, and oh, it is cloudy, and they can sit there and dance around it, but they'll never admit that they lied.
No, it's mostly that they oversold it a little bit in the report, or the video that may not show exactly what happened, but it's not an earth-shattering, the courtroom all stops kind of moment.
Right, and what you hope for is that the jury sees what the witness has done,
Right.
and the jury comes to that conclusion that they have lied. Now, A Few Good Men, you're damn right. What did he say? What's the line? You're damn right I ordered the code red.
Yeah, I'm going back to my base.
I'm going back to my base. And now I also didn't know, I guess apparently Tom Cruise can arrest people. I guess lawyers could arrest people because he says at the end, he says, you're under arrest.
Yeah, I think he just said that, but I think the bailiff was taking him, wasn't it? Because then the Kevin Bacon was going over to read
him his rights.
Yeah, the other one.
The prosecutor.
Yeah, no, who's the other Marine that was in there that Oh, he's been in a lot of things too. He was the commander underneath Jack Nicholson's character.
Oh yeah.
You know
Colonel
him.
Markinson.
No, Markinson.
He shot himself. In the movie.
Markinson shot himself. I'm talking about the other one he was in like Young Guns.
Oh, Kiefer Sutherland.
Yeah, Kiefer Sutherland. That's it. Sorry,
Yeah.
I'm
oh,
getting
he was.
older.
Yeah,
I can't remember anything.
He was the
anymore.
one who everybody follows your orders.
Yep.
If Santiago wasn't going to be touched, and so getting back to Airman O'Malley, that was a good tactic.
Yeah, it was.
So take our jury through that tactic but after I say you're watching JP Kathy and the Crew Network. This is the Lawyer Show. You can watch us between 12 and 1 on Thursdays. You can watch JP Kathy and the Crew between 7:30 and 9, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I'm your lawyer, Jeremy Rosenthal. My co-counsel today is Bo Kalabus. Bo is going to explain to us the trial tactics employed by the defense in the U.S. government v. Dawson and Downey. Go ahead.
Okay, so the end. So he doctored the flight log, or he had Markinson doctor the flight logs.
Jack Nicholson.
Yeah, Jack Nicholson.
Jessup.
Jessup had Markinson doctor the flight logs to basically show that there was a flight off at 6 a.m. And they couldn't find any record of any flight, but they brought in the guys that were just going to testify that they didn't see anything land at 6 a.m. in Washington or whatever it was. So it was just kind of a little, I think. He knew he was losing ground with Jessup all the way through it, and that was just kind of he couldn't find anything, and he couldn't really. It was cross-examination with nothing, as a back support. Where, well, let me refer you to this record. He didn't have anything like that, so I think what he was trying to do was get him to say, "Oh, I found something."
So they so they knew that they had doctored the books on the flight.
Yeah, because Jessup had told him to, according to Markinson.
So they brought in a couple of airmen who had nothing to do with it. They just brought them in.
Yeah, they were going to testify that Weinberg, Tom Cruise's assistant there, Kathy's assistant there, had scoured, Andrews Air Force Base and couldn't find anything. But he's like, what are these guys going to say? Well, they're going to say that they didn't see an airplane come in. They didn't,
they weren't even witnesses that day. I thought they just rounded up two rando.
Yeah, they rounded them up.
People.
Yeah, they brought them in as witnesses to say they didn't see anything.
But they put them in the courtroom, and that's what it was. And then the guy goes, oh, Colonel Jessup, sees them and gets uncomfortable, and so that's a really good way to box him in. So, very good trial advocacy.
So, am I Markinson? Have you checked to see?
Are you Markinson? Is that was a line in it, right?
Yeah, because he was counterintelligence. It's like I could be Markinson, and you don't know. Are you Markinson? No, I'm not. Heidi, are you Markinson?
No.
Okay.
Definitely not.
Okay.
Frank Stark's going to be happy about
We
that.
have to go. We have to talk about My Cousin Vinny.
Marissa Tomei.
We have to. Who was also in. She was also a big part of the Lincoln Lawyer.
She was an outstanding part of the Lincoln Lawyer, I might add. Too.
And she was darn near. She was not. She may have won an Academy Award for My Cousin Vinny.
I don't know.
Can you check?
Yeah.
I think she may have.
All I remember was her biological clock was ticking.
Well, she says there was the one. Okay, so she's and My Cousin Vinny gets a lot of adulation. I think rightly so. As a good lawyer movie, it's technically very good. As a lawyer movie, it is. There's so much in it, and I was watching because I knew we were going to talk about it, and I've seen it, I'm sure 5-10 times. I was watching again some of the things from it last night, and there's so many subtleties. Did she win an Oscar?
Best supporting actress.
Best supporting actress.
She was great in that, though.
Yeah, phenomenal. She was the star witness as an expert, talking about that, I mean, it was a very, very good explanation of how expert witnesses work in a courtroom, because she had the knowledge and the training and the experience to basically come and to make those conclusions, which I thought was accurate. That's how they were doing them. But
I just got a note from my wife that she did win Best Supporting Actress.
Yes.
So she must be. We have a viewer.
What's Corey's opinion on A Clockwork Orange?
I'm probably going to hear about that
weigh
tonight.
in on that? So. But yeah, and going back to My Cousin Vinny, sort of. So he goes into this Southern courtroom. Oh God, I forget the judge's name. But,
yeah, he was in
Herman Munster.
Yeah, he was in a lot of stuff too.
And very formal, very and very. You will dress this way in my courtroom. You will be prepared. You will do this. You will do that.
And we've all run into that. That's real. It's
and it's very consistent with small towns.
Absolutely.
And and the judge even says to him at one point, maybe in New York City, blah, 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 blah. But that's the attitude, because so many of these small towns and counties have this sort of, I don't know if it's a Napoleon complex, but there's a lot of, well, we have to be very formal, and they just take themselves so seriously.
And
it's
you
hard.
don't want, and look, and also too, it's like they're not going to be told what to do in their southern community by a Yankee, and that's kind of the other underlying tone with it too. It's like, this is how we do it down here. You may be sloppy up there, but we do it right.
You may be casual. You may dress like that. You may address the court informally. But I mean, I thought that part too, and maybe that's, I don't know, maybe that's kind of part of some of the obvious humor of it, right? But you also have, but yeah, and to me again, I also really like going back to the expert witness part of it. An expert doesn't have to be a toxicologist. An expert doesn't have to be a blood spatter expert. I mean, she got up there, and just because she had worked in a garage,
Right.
she could have testified in the state of Texas.
Sure.
With those qualifications.
Sure. Yeah, it's like, and something like, if you've got, a case that may involve something like Snapchat, where I'm like, I don't have any idea how any of this works, but if you have someone that's a peer that knows how it works, knows how things move around on it, or any of the online apps for that matter that you may not be savvy in, you may need some of that to explain, like, well, this is like in a harassment case or something like that, where, you wouldn't think that they would qualify, but once you learn how they understand, all you have to do is have the knowledge, experience, and, and it's, I mean, you've got a ball game with them. So.
Yeah, excellent stuff.
The judge was Fred Gwynn, who played.
Fred Gwynn.
And that was his last movie before he died of pancreatic cancer.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And his famous line is, "What is a Ute?"
Indeed. We ask ourselves these questions every day. Yeah, my cousin Vinny, I think that is very, I think it gets a lot of, like I was saying, I think it gets a lot of credibility for being a really, really good lawyer movie. And I think, and all the shtick just kind of makes it better.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it does.
It does.
And at the end, he had the breakthrough, which everybody I talk to, that's what they just think criminal lawyers do, is we're in the middle of a trial, and then boom, we see the light. And
that doesn't happen on your cases?
Sometimes,
Okay. I just thought that was everybody. Okay.
But it also shows he was a human being, because he was trying to sleep, and it was like the trains one night, and
car
the
stuck
screech
in the
owl,
mud.
and sleeping in the car in the middle of the forest. Like he was just trying to be prepared, and he finally ended up sleeping the best in the jail.
Yeah.
So
a lot of, it's interesting too, because a lot of these movies are good courtroom movies, and a lot of these movies are good lawyer movies, as far as maybe the practice or just kind of the lifestyle. Like we were talking, let's see, a little about one of your favorites, two movies that are kind of similar, Michael Clayton and The Lincoln Lawyer.
I like those, but one thing, if I may, can I hit? Because they kind of run together, The Verdict and Civil Action.
I've got The Verdict here.
Okay.
Okay.
I like The Verdict.
The Verdict, go ahead.
Because you kind of come in the middle of the case, and he's got a medical malpractice case, and it's Paul Newman, and this comes out about 1980. And the movie's rough around the edges. It just is. It's not, it's old school. He got accused of jury tampering back in the day. He's, had a brush with the state bar over it. Everybody knows it, but he's got this case, and he's an alcoholic, and he's struggling to kind of get back in the game. And he gets offered a good settlement on it, and his buddy's like, look, we need to take it. And he decides to roll the dice. And he thinks he's got an expert witness that's going to, I think what the issue was is they put a female under anesthetic, but they missed that she had eaten, and she asphyxiated and died. And I can't remember if she died or was a vegetable for a while.
She was in a coma.
Okay.
This is another one that I watched a bunch of highlights.
Yeah,
because I've seen it a handful of times. But yeah, go ahead.
And it's real good. And you've got the overhanging judge that's defense oriented up there. You've got the big defense firm that's got all the money behind him and the prep. And they're talking about prepping the case. And one of the associates is getting married, and he's like, send your wife flowers because you're just going to be working through your wedding and all. It just shuts everything down and away they
That
go.
just gives me warm fuzzies as a lawyer.
Well, and Paul Newman, it's fallen apart. His expert disappears. He brings in an expert that just gets his rear handed to him. But then he's got a gumshoe, and he keeps going up to down in New York to find a nurse that had left, and he gets the breakthrough where all of a sudden where he wants to take the settlement right before the trial starts when he finds out his expert fizzled. And then we've all had cases that are built upon experts, and then you get a little nervous when they say they're not going to come to testify, or they've got other conflicts and you may not have them at trial. A lot of folks are busy sometimes, so it's like that kind of element where I'm like, okay, it's kind of it's realistic to a degree, and but ultimately it ends up working out for him. But you see all the hurdles he's got to go through. But it comes down to they finally found someone that was going to come in and tell the truth on it.
Okay, so one of my takeaways, extremely layered. The verdict
Right.
is extremely layered in many different ways, and yes, it does focus a lot on Paul Newman's life, on his problems, on his alcohol issues. I mean, he's in there, right? He's at the bar drinking. Is he playing there's one
pinball?
Is he playing a pinball machine?
Right before he's going to go pick the jury.
And he's like, oh damn, I gotta go, and then he's running late, and so I mean, he's a very, very flawed person up against really an impossible opponent, because they even put a plant. They had that female.
Right. The firm planted the love interest in there to kind of distract him, or to at least figure out what he was up
Which
to.
I haven't checked the rules of ethics. I'm going to guess that's a little over the line.
Remember the line in that? It's like whiskey, or the winning is what all that matters. Winning is what pays. Winning is what buys the whiskey.
I don't really. So okay, now I will say
How
this.
do you remember these things?
This is what he does.
Well, the crossover the crossover with the Civil Action, which had John Travolta in it, though, with he plays Jan Schlitman in it, and
That's a true story, by the way.
It was a true story, but the verdict was based on one of the real Jan Schlitman, one of the first firms he worked for. The verdict was based on his partner at that firm, the older mentor, and so like when he got into that case, he didn't want it. And it just shows that, hey, we think the wells, that was a well water case where, they had poisoned water. And that kind of gives you the reverse of what you're talking about with experts, where I think it was William H. Macy's in there. He's like, well, they suspect this causes leukemia. That's just a euphemism for unproven. And so you don't understand the money drain on a case like that. And that kind of goes back to your LA law, where it's kind of BS on what they're doing, where they brought in all the experts to show how the water flowed out of the ground and how it got to the wells and all that. And at the end, I mean, it's whatever money they got out of that case. It wrecked the firm. It wrecked all those guys. Yeah. To some degree.
It totally destroyed them. A civil action and the verdict are very similar in that part of it, because it shows the human side of what those lawyers were going to. And back to the verdict. So I think what happened, right? So the patient, I guess, was under anesthesia. I think she vomited.
Yeah.
And because she had eaten, and she told them that she had eaten, and they
doctored it.
They doctored it, and then they ran the nurse off, and Paul Newman ran her down.
Right.
Right. But I will say this: I watched the closing argument from the verdict, and either I am stupid, or I can watch that 100 times and not know what he was talking about at all. He's talking about justice, and he's talking about statues, and he's talking about icons.
It sounded like a defense lawyer when you have nothing.
He just
no
didn't
evidence,
have anything to say. And another point too that I should, before we move off the verdict, very upset clients.
Well, and the same with the civil action too. Because at the end of it, they were like, you told us it wasn't about the money. It was about the apology that they never got, or that they're going to clean all this up, right? And, and that's kind of where it goes into when you're a lawyer and you think you're an actor in your own movie, it's not about you.
Right.
We're here to kind of get the result for the client. You've got to be kind of what those movies teach me too, is as I get into this, it's like I may have a battle with an opponent that may become personal, or you may think it becomes personal, but it's never you can't get caught up in that. You got to divorce that and go, okay, I got to get back to what is the big picture here? What is, if you want to run to the media on a case or something, it's like, well, wait a minute, is that really a good idea for the client, or is that just
Does
me?
that help you, or does
Yeah,
that help the client?
Exactly.
Right. It's always, again, always about the client. And I remember from the verdict, just the clients are finally kind of catching on to Paul Newman, because the lawyers have a lot of power and they have a lot of ability to, just to put it bluntly, to snow a client.
Right.
And the client,
Because they didn't know about the settlement offer, I think, initially, that they would have taken.
Is that right?
I think that's what started it downhill, was they were like, wait a minute, whatever it was, like, I think $75,000 or something, and they were just like,
it was $210,000.
Oh, was it really?
And then Paul Newman, I think, says to the deacon or whoever's offering it to him, because the hospital is affiliated with the church, I guess, and Paul Newman is talking one-on-one with the deacon of the church or the whoever, the official. And he says, $210,000. He says that gets divided by 3 very evenly, right? Because the third being what his contingency fee was going to be. So he got off. So they got offered a lot of money there. I don't think anywhere near what they actually got. Heidi? What other quotes do you think we get from lawyer movies? There's one that I want to talk about. With the insider,
time, so you definitely want to bring it up.
But you're the one that listen. You hear. Now, I'm sure there's quotes that we have from
The Office that we talk about.
The Office, the show,
yes.
The Office, from Boogie Nights. There's a lot of movies that have made it into A Serious Man.
Serious Man, Boogie Nights for sure.
What was the one? Burn After Reading.
Burn After Reading. Yep. Yep.
But
what have we learned here?
What have we learned?
That you have to watch movies and shows to work at Rosenthal, Kalabus, and Tyrion.
Well, we highly encourage it.
Talking about if you don't.
It's very hard. It's very hard with some of the younger folks that we have, some of the millennial types, because we can talk about these things and it just goes right over their head.
So hit it. What else you got on there?
So I've got, so we haven't talked about The Firm. That's another movie. Tom Cruise again. That's another movie about I'm the star of my own life movie.
These are nice people, Abby. Nice people.
I haven't seen this one in a long, long time. But so he works at this firm and he finds out they're all crooks.
Yeah, they wine him and dine him. They know he's poor. That's what they go after. And it's a tax firm, but it's really they help clients that basically they help the clients that launder the money for the crime family, for the mafia, and they do the mafia legal work there. But
they're overbilling clients is what they're doing, right?
Yeah. Well, that's how they do that as part of their policy. But that's how they get caught, because he didn't want to turn over the information. The attorney, you learned about attorney-client privilege there. That right after he took an oath to uphold the privilege, that he was going to turn right around and break it for the feds. Ed Harris was in that, and remember Ed Harris was the FBI guy.
Okay, so here's what that makes me think of. So there was, and this is an incident that I don't know how this even got resolved. It's been maybe 10 years since this happened, but again, lawyers, we all kind of are sort of raised to think that we are these special snowflakes, that we are the stars of our own movies, that the whole planet sort of revolves around this. There was a case in Collin County happened, I don't know, like I said, 10 years ago, maybe even longer than that. And I forget the particulars of it, but that's not going to stop me from just kind of blasting it out.
Oh, we know.
So what happens is somebody is acquitted, and it was the prosecutor didn't agree with the acquittal. It was a DWI of some sort. Client has a bench trial, gets acquitted. I think what I heard was the client was sort of connected, that the allegation was that there was some inside baseball there surrounding the acquittal, which would be very surprising to me if anything like that was remotely true. But we have in Texas what's called an expunction, which means you can have your records destroyed if you win a case. And at Rosenthal Kalabus Tyrion, we do a lot of expunctions. You can call us at 972-369-0577. That's how you get your record cleaned. Okay? So just remember, 972-369-0577. We file a petition for expunction. Once the judge grants that expunction, it is unlawful for anybody to disseminate that information. You have the ability under Chapter 55 of the Texas Code of Criminal Procedure in most instances to deny the occasion of the arrest.
Right, because it's a misdemeanor. Somebody tries to use that against you.
And so exactly, if you are a prosecutor, you are committing a crime by keeping and retaining those records and by showing somebody else, because two judges have now come in and said, clear this person's record.
Should be scrubbed from every governmental entity.
You've got the original judge and the other judge. Well, this prosecutor decides that this acquittal is just wrong, and so he takes the file from the office, runs down to a law school professor of his at SMU.
This is true.
Do you remember this?
Yes.
And then he goes and he cries on her sofa, "Oh, I'm Mitch McDeere from the firm, and this is all about me."
It was an anti-Mitch McDeere because Mitch was going to do it, but he ultimately didn't do it.
Oh, is that right?
Mitch found a way.
So
he got him for overbilling, another dirty lawyer trick that we don't do at Rosenthal Calabustarian.
Indeed. So, and I remember this made I think this made the paper at some point, that it was so bad, and I haven't seen or heard from this lawyer again. Who knows where his movie has moved to, but that's kind of what I think a lot of lawyers sort of think of themselves, kind of like that sort of, I've got to we're trained to question things around us, and that's great. And we also, I think, as far as professions go, I have yet to see a profession that polices itself anywhere near as well as the legal profession. I just don't think they do. I don't think that we have the State Bar of Texas. We have we have all of our ethics and grievance procedures. Right. We have grievance committees that are around.
Well, and we've seen judges that if they think they're seeing something going on, they'll report you. They will report people. And we've seen them threaten to do that to certain folks, and it's there's a lot of checks and balances in the profession, which I don't think a lot of people realize that are out there.
So this prosecutor, what I think he needs to, the one who kind of ran away and did his little thing, what he needs to understand, if I was talking to him, what I would say, okay, asshole, you're not the only honest lawyer in this county. There's other honest lawyers here, and everybody who touched this file, you have to start out with the presumption that they did so honestly. You have gone out on such a ledge here that you are committing an offense on your own because you think you're the only honest one, and you need to get over yourself.
Well, and I don't know if that's likening to a whistleblowing, because again, I don't know if there was anything to whistleblow about in this certain scenario, but it's, that's kind of the thing is when you do something like that, because you're basically saying I'm honest, but I'm going to violate a lot of rules and laws to do this, with some of which may even be criminal. It's getting to the point where you're basically a pariah in your own field after that.
The fact is, too, this guy had a remedy. If he thought that there had been foul play surrounding the acquittal, if he had thought that there was foul play, he can call the police, too. Or he can call the Texas Rangers who would investigate it.
She could have objected to the expunction, too, probably through the DA's office or whatever.
We're getting our pronouns mixed up.
We are.
Anyway, we may be... Okay, so there's a great quote from nobody's commented on anything. I don't want to know. Gosh, this is sad. This is just makes me so sad. That's okay. This is what I expected.
It's got some traction, though.
Well, we don't put any effort into this. Why should they? So, okay, now the insider.
If that's not reason to keep us turned on, I don't know what is it. That's,
Okay, so there's the movie The Insider.
I've never seen this, I don't think.
You've never seen, I think it's The Insider with Russell Crowe. Oh, I thought, man, you would love The Insider.
I don't think I have. When did it come out?
This is 2007, maybe 2008. So this is the movie where Russell Crowe plays the guy at the tobacco company, and 60 Minutes is doing their interview with him, and then the tobacco company tries to come in and shut down the interviews.
I have not seen this.
And tried to shut down the news story. Okay. And so boy, that's a great movie because you've got lawyering from several different angles. You really haven't seen this?
I don't think so.
Oh, my Lord.
2007, that's, when I just kind of...
Are you finding it?
It's 1999.
Oh. My
And
bad.
it was actually nominated for 7 Academy Awards.
That's all.
Including Best Picture and Best Actor in a Leading Role for Russell Crowe.
Okay.
So
I was worried about finishing law school. I was totally focused back in those days.
You were in the zone. I get it. Okay, so this is a great movie. Okay, because you've got 60 Minutes, who they're threatening, and the tobacco industry is threatening to sue the potatoes out of them for running this story. Russell Crowe is this. I saw the signal for wrapping this up. This is a great episode. I think we stay here until they kick us out. Anyway.
We're going to need food brought in if we're going to do a standoff.
There's just too much to go through. So the insider says,
Part 2, Bo Kalabus will have to be another repeat guest.
we'll have to do this yet again.
You just committed yourself there.
So the next time we have a last-minute change of guests,
Well, I think our 3 listeners will like it.
well, I mean, maybe next time somebody will comment on anything. Anyway, so Russell Crowe plays the scientist who worked for one of the big tobacco companies, and he's gone rogue. He's gone off the. He's gone.
Oh, okay.
He's gone, as they say in
That's
the
got a
legal
Michael
profession,
Clayton kind of feel to
off
it.
the reservation is
Okay.
what they call it, and so he's gone and basically saying these people are just killing people just to make money is what he says. 60 Minutes interviews him and he breaks it down, and then it gets into this whole legal battle. And so there's one scene that's great where Mike Wallace is talking to one of the CBS lawyers. The CBS lawyer is a very young lady. She's maybe 30. And she's laying it out to him. She says, this or that, Mike, you've got to blah, 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 blah. And he goes, Mike, I'm Mike now. Mike. Because Mike Wallace at this point is in his 60s, and he's a highly accomplished journalist.
Yeah.
And she was like, oh, I guess I'm Mike. Yeah, and he's like, you can, and he tells her where to go. But there's a great scene, too, because I think there's some type of state administrative hearing or an injunction, and they go absolutely bonkers in there, and this guy and these lawyers who are as alpha and as mean as they get at one another are standing up, and one of them says, this state, Kentucky, has put an injunction on you, sir. That means you don't talk in this deposition. I'm instructing you to remain silent. The other lawyer just explodes at him, and he says, and it's the guy, the actor, I'm going to forget his name, also in Animal House. He says, oh, you have rights. And you have lefts and ups and downs and sideways. And he says, and then the guy smiles. He says, and you wipe that smile off your face. We are in the sovereign state of, I think it's Mississippi. Anyway, I'm not doing it justice. That's not going to stop me from making an idiot out of myself here. I am shocked that you haven't seen that.
It sounds a lot like I mean, a lot of the civil depositions I was in, a lot of them were smooth. There were some of them were just turned into, let's see who can be the bigger bully. So that I might have to crank this in.
That is a great civil lawyer being a civil lawyer scene.
Stark, what is your favorite lawyer movie?
She's just trying to get us off the
Yeah,
air.
No, Corey basically just said that was being added to your weekend plan.
The Insider?
No, to watch Clockwork Orange.
Oh, well, see, there we
So-
go. We have
She-
persuaded the authority.
She is my social
She's
director.
going to hate it. I don't know.
so-
She may not hate it. I don't know her tastes nearly as well as I do yours. Just understand, Corey needs to understand, they banned this movie for 10 years in England for a reason.
Yeah.
A good reason, because this is,
It's a one-time watch for me.
have you've seen it, Heidi?
I have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, this is why I haven't watched it yet. It's kind of like, you know.
It's Stanley Kubrick.
I know.
Tell me
I
what
know.
he's done that sucks.
Yeah, not much.
Nothing. Nothing. Not Dr. Strangelove. None of it. Not Spartacus. He did Spartacus, right?
Oh, I don't think I've seen Spartacus.
Oh, wow.
I know.
Jeez,
you know.
you've got to watch that. That's amazing.
Heidi, you wanted to talk about the Pelican Brief before they throw us out of this room?
I do like the Pelican Brief.
I like it too.
I thought that was a great one.
That's a good movie.
Yeah.
Yep. Denzel.
Blowing up cars.
Yeah.
You know. Like
Oh, Sam Shepard. That's right.
Save nature, save the birds that
Yeah.
were in the bird.
I kind of like the
sanctuary.
tragic lawyer like Sam Shepard was in that. He's teaching, but he's just kind of hanging on to the bottle. You know, it's just
Yeah.
kind of, that's good
Having
stuff.
a thing with
Yeah.
one of the law students. You know.
Yeah, kind of skirting the
That's
rules,
fine.
but you
Nothing
know.
wrong with that.
I mean, not a lot of comedy in, for the purposes of the Lawyer Show podcast, for In To Kill a Mockingbird. No, not so much. Caddyshack, we have Judge Smales.
We do have Judge Smells in Caddyshack.
I
What was the
know.
line where he put people away for?
Okay, so I have a few friends who can quote Caddyshack
Heidi, we're
verbatim, the whole
killing Heidi
thing
right now.
the whole thing, and I'm gonna kill it, and I'm gonna get it wrong. So I'm sorry about that in advance, but it is. I've sentenced to people to death younger than you. Didn't want to do it. Felt I owed it to them. I said so. So he's talking to like an 18-year-old. So
Danny Noonan.
Danny Noonan, right? So there's Judge Smales, and so that's a pretty iconic character. Man, I think we've covered as much as we can. We could go for another 2 or 3 hours, but I don't know that would be.
I don't think anybody behind us here wants us to.
I don't think anybody needs that. Anyway, thank you.
Successful show, though, I gotta say.
Well, I feel that way.
Yeah. Lots of good quotes, which I knew there would be. I don't know how you all can remember all those, but you did a good job representing today.
I don't know how we know them either. Bo's better.
You know, I don't know though. I mean, it's kind of. I don't know. I watched the movies we have seen. I've seen them a bunch. You know, so it is kind of. I don't know. There's some good and bad, but hey.
I mean, we haven't even gotten. I mean, there's just so many movies, like 13 Days.
13 Days. Apollo 13.
Apollo 13. Yeah, we got to get off. Okay, this has been a great episode of the Lawyer Show podcast. Thank you, and we'll see you next week.